Maisha is launching a partnership with the East African School of Aviation. Now, over to a story that I promised you earlier, which has everything to do with the government housing scheme dilemma. Now, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich sought to put the record straight on the proposal for employers to contribute 1% of gross pay to the National Housing Development Fund, saying it is a move to aid in provision of affordable housing. So far, employers are opposed to the amendment, which they say increases labour cost and the cost of living. KTN's Julio Wino reports.
As the Federation of Kenyan Employers launched the second edition of the Employer of the Year Awards, it is clear that they are not pleased with a new proposal that is currently under discussion in Parliament. The move to push employers to contribute to the housing fund was rushed, and no consultations were held between them and the government on this.
Changes will make labor costs increase significantly, and will also expose the NHIF to abuse, because at the same time as there are proposals to make employers contribute to NHIF, there are also proposals to remove employer representatives and other stakeholders from the boards of the NHIF and other boards. So employers are concerned about the likelihood of abuse and lack of governance over the funds which would be contributed to NHIF.
Despite the resentments, Treasury is not backing down. Treasury CS Henry Rotich says the information with the employers is contradicting and not exactly what he read on the 2018-2019 budget day.
I think it was reported wrongly yesterday in the paper. I don't know where they got the information that that we have different numbers. So the number is 0.5 and 0.5 employer and 0.5 employee. That is in my budget statement and also the finance bill. I think somebody may have, I don't know where they got the finance bill. The one that we submitted is correct. I saw somebody saying that we had errors. So I think that person had a document which was not the one that we submitted.
CS says it shall be revealed on how best the government will handle this in due course as the matter continues to be shrouded in secrecy. Julio Wino, KTN News.
Thank you, Julie, for that. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta's renewed war on graft has in recent days faced criticism of alleged protection of close associates of senior government officials implicated in corruption. So, is the alleged talk of sacred cows in the anti-graft war real or just mere political gimmick to the perpetual politicization of anti-corruption war in Kenya?
Only days after President Uhuru Kenyatta offered to be the first to undergo a lifestyle audit, followed by his deputy William Ruto as part of the ongoing war on graft, Ruto's close ally, Kapseret legislator Oscar Sudi, made this remark, albeit tongue-in-cheek.
Kuanzia rais sasa wewe tufanye audit hiyo ni mzuri. Kuanzie Jomo mwenyewe kuja mpaka wewe Sudi kuja mpaka baba yake na maneno yaendelee.
Members of Parliament.
And on Tuesday, youthful legislators led by former investigative journalist Mohammed Ali would seemingly kick the corruption ball closer to Kenyatta's goalpost, demanding prosecution of 10 presumed Kenyatta allies over the suspected 8 billion shilling scandal at the National Youth Service, including Cabinet Secretaries Mwangi Kunjuri and Cicely Kariuki, former Directorate of Criminal Investigations Ndegwa Muhoro, and Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who has since threatened to sue the legislator for defamation within 7 days. But is this talk of sacred cows in the graft war real or just a mere diversionary tactic to kill the momentum in the counter-graft war?
Politicization and ethnicization of the fight against corruption is a tactic and a strategy by those who do not want the arm of the law to catch them or their friends, to intimidate the president.
This is not about corruption. I think corruption is a sideshow. In fact, what you're seeing is the weaponization of anti-corruption to fight political wars.
Prior to his acrimonious ejection as chair of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Professor P. Elo Lumumba had made a remark which somewhat illustrates the authorities' difficulty at going after the big fish.
5 to 8 high-voltage files, holding all factors constant, may very well find their way to the Honorable the Attorney General. If the President of the Republic of Kenya wanted that the agencies focus on me or any other Kenyan, he would get all the information he needs. And being in that unique position, he can be the most effective instrument.
When you talk about lifestyle audit, it's been packaged to look like to look like a particular person is a target. If we allow opportunists to set the agenda of the fight against corruption, we will have lost it.
Hatutaki tena siasa duni ya kugawanya watu, siasa ya kutumia kabila lako kujitetea na wewe ni mwizi.
Now, with his legacy on the line and cartels salivating at his 3 trillion shillings budget, President Kenyatta no doubt remains on the spot as Kenyans continue to critique his seriousness in the counter-graft war. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Let me now take you over to some live event. In the launch of the second policy and criteria for sharing revenue among marginalized areas and CRS Strategic Plan 2017-2022 is happening now. The Commission on Revenue Allocation is mandated to determine, publish and regularly review a policy in which it is set. And at the moment, I understand the NCIC Chair, Francis Ole Kaparo, is addressing that gathering. Let me take you straight there.
I am going to Kenya. That was the origin of that division of our country. And by the way, it is also the origin of hate that we have amongst ourselves. There is a lot of hate in Kenya. And ask me because I've gone to every county in Kenya on matters cohesion. There is a lot of hate. And a lot of that hate is based on envy. People are envious that you are developed, we are not. That you get positions in government, we don't. That you are Kenyan, we are not. That envy fuels a lot of our problems. That underdevelopment and conflict go hand in hand. In my 4 years in NCIC, I spent a lot of time addressing conflicts in those disadvantaged areas. The worst was in Moyale. A conflict between people, the rest of you would think they're the same, the Gabra and the Borana. And these things are driven by a few simple but important things to them. And those are the allocation of resources, water, grazing, and yes, of late, the distribution of resources by the counties, employment, contracts, and political power divisions. All these things lead to war and major conflicts in northern Kenya. That was the case in Marsabit. It was also the case in Mandera, between the Dogodia and the Gari. Again, politically, and resource-based conflicts. And they go together. And this is also what happens in Laikipia, where I come from. Laikipia is divided into two. The arid north of Laikipia and the semi-arid parts of southern Laikipia. When you hear conflict in Laikipia, it is not in the developed parts of that county. It is in the northern part of Laikipia that is not developed. That's where people are killing each other. over scarce resources. That is also, Mount Elgon, I have also been there. Again, because of the conflicts as a result of resources. So there's a direct connection between underdevelopment and conflict and war. And therefore, I am very, very happy to notice that this commission is going beyond what was in the last identification of marginalized areas. And I'd like to ask you to change even the terminology. Not marginalization fund, it should be demarginalization fund. But you cannot use funds to marginalize people further. You must use the funds to demarginalize, to remove that marginalization. And so it is good. And there have been various attempts to try to address this evil of marginalization. I played a central part in it when I was Speaker. The first serious attempt to address issues of marginalization was the creation of CDF. I played a major role in creating CDF. Because I, apart from being Speaker, I also came from a very marginalized area. And so we thought national resources must move out from the railway line and the equator and go to every part of this country. And that's why we thought and developed the CDF, to reach out to every corner of this country. And yes, the CDF in most places played a major role in uplifting the lives of the people. And for a long time, until devolution came, the only thing you could point out as a central government development initiative in northern Kenya and other arid lands was CDF projects for a long time. That was the first serious attempt. And the second attempt through the Constitution is devolution. And devolution, by and large, has done a lot to address the issues of marginalization and inequality across our land. Yes, indeed, we accept. Like everybody else, like every attempt we make in Kenya, there are problems. There are problems associated with corruption, because as we devolve funds, we also devolve corruption. As we devolve funds, we also devolve nepotism. As we devolve funds, we also devolve marginalization, even at the sub-county level. All those problems we face as a people. But at least there's that beginning. I'm not trying to hurry because of time. And conflict and marginalization, I say, go together. People compete for grazing, they fight and they kill. They compete for water and they kill one another. Then there's also political marginalization of communities, even at their own counties and sub-county levels. Again, that needs to be addressed. And then the greatest problem of cohesion and security is the absence of government. In most of these areas you are trying to bring up to the level of the rest of Kenya, you hardly find government officials and security officers. You'll go for miles on end to find a policeman. You'll go for miles on end to find an administrative post, you will go for miles to get even a chief. And yes, I agree with the chair. Even those sent there to do development, including to teach the children, find it difficult to exist in those areas because they are hostile. There is the hostility of climate, inability to move those places because the roads are bad, and also, if I must end here, and I wish I was addressing the pastoral people, their own craziness in loving blood, killing one another like flies. You must stop that. Thank you.
There you go. There is the NCIC chairman, Francis Ole Kaparo, there addressing some of the people who have gathered there during the strategic plan launch of the 2017-2022 second policy for revenue allocation. Now, let me take you over to some other story that we have for you this morning. And Turkana County still struggles with provision of basic services like health. The population size exceeds the number of health providers by far. To bridge the gap, the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, trained members of the community who, despite not having any formal education, have been transformed into reliable healthcare givers. The illiterate community health volunteers are now treating malaria, diarrhea, and even pneumonia, which are the most common children illnesses in Turkana. Take a look.
Lowoton Naron is not your ordinary woman. At Komera Nakutoi village in Doima sub-county in Turkana County, she stands tall among the villagers. The fame and appreciation she commands is not about who she is, but what she does. She is a doctor, a village doctor. We caught up with her as she prepared to go out for her daily work. She does not have any basic and formal education and training, but she knows what to do anytime duty calls, thanks to the training she received through the help of the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF. She is part of the over 1,000 community health volunteers working under Integrated Community Case Management, ICCM, a program that uses community members without any formal training to treat and manage common diseases among children aged 5 years and below.
This village doctor helps us a lot. She treats our children and even us parents. She treats diarrhea, malaria, and other sicknesses.
In the remotest of the villages, community health workers are able to screen, they are able to treat.
She relies on these traditional beads that ordinarily would pass as ornaments, but have now been transformed into diagnostic tools. The beads are used alongside respiratory timers to facilitate breath counting, with one bead representing a complete in-out breath.
Community health volunteers are using beads, and you see the Turkana people are used to beads.
In late 2016, UNICEF provided support to Turkana County to train and equip community health volunteers to diagnose and treat diarrhea and malaria, the two common childhood illnesses, and further to identify and refer children with suspected pneumonia and severely ill and sick newborns to the nearest health facility for timely recommended treatment.
So there was high demand for quality health care, but very low supply. The supply side was very weak. So then we felt that ICCM bridges this gap.
Most of our people are nomads, and they move with the animals in search of grass. So these community health volunteers are always there with them, moving with them, and they provide them drugs whenever their kids are not feeling well.
Different colored beads are used to assist this community health volunteer, largely identified by the locals as the village doctor, to easily differentiate what age of child she is examining for possible pneumonia. On this day, she was making a follow-up on a child she had treated earlier of pneumonia, and to her joy, the child had fully recovered.
Lowoton is doing a good job. She visits us daily, treats us, and even takes us to hospital.
She walks around with two types of beads, divided between black and red or green and red. The bead with green and red colors is used to help diagnose and detect pneumonia in children below 1 year, while those with black and red colors are used on children aged between 1 year and 5 years. A normal and healthy child of below 1 year makes 60 breaths per minute, and for a child aged between 1 to 5 years makes 40 breaths per minute. Any count exceeding those limits means the child being attended to has pneumonia, in which case the community health volunteer proceeds to give antibiotics. In some instances, she only gets young children without their parents, yet she has to stay around and wait for the parents. She is not allowed to attend to any child in the absence of their parent or guardian. And after a long, busy day, Lower Tont returns home with her head lifted up for the service rendered to her community. Shadrach Miti, KT News, in the county of Turkana.
It's exactly 10 a.m. East African time, and that report by Shadrach Miti from Turkana brings us to the end of the first hour of the news center right on KTN News. We're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, I see Tandiwe Yego getting ready with what's trending now. And also, I'm going to link up with our sports desk. They're going to tell us more on that shocker that took place last night between Argentina and Croatia, where Croatia defeated the South American giants, but not by 1 or 2 goals, but by 3 goals in Russia. We'll have that and much more. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is KTN News.
Brought to you by StarTimes.
StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.